Some breaking news for the Toronto Blue Jays. They have made a shocking trade with the Cleveland Guardians. And this is not what I had in mind when I thought the Blue Jays were going to do a subsequent move after the Jimmy Garcia signing that Nick broke down earlier on a live stream today. So if you haven't checked that out already, go ahead and do so. But Nick, this this is not what I was
No.
expecting. We were expecting a free agent signing to be the next thing in line for the Toronto Blue Jays. Not to be, my man. Not to be. Andres Gimenez is now a Toronto Blue Jay, the one-time All-Star, the one-time Platinum Glove winner, the three-time Gold Glove winner. I like this move on the surface. Now, a lot of fans are not enjoying it, and they're not really fans of the move that just went down, but guy's locked up until 2030. I think he's a pretty damn good player as well, and a shocking move, to say the least, by the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah, and I'll drag the move on the screen now among a few different things. So it is Andres Gimenez and another pitcher, I forget his name, Nick Sand, something like that,
Nick
for
Sandlin.
yeah,
Nick
Nick
Sandlin.
Sandlin for Spencer Horwitz. So people are upset, Peter, and we'll see what the chat has to say, of course, but people are upset because Spencer Horwitz is gone. And I mean, I'm shocked, to be honest. This is not a trade you expect. It's like the Dalton Varsho trade all over again, except, I mean, you could argue, I mean, Horwitz had a decent year, but I'm kind of the mindset that they sold really high on Spencer Horwitz and they're buying fairly low on Andres Gimenez. Like, that is kind of the mindset that I am taking with this, because they definitely, I mean, we know for a fact they sold high on Spencer Horwitz, unless he goes out and has another great season. He finished last year at the 790 OPS, but it begs the question now, and we'll have a video on it, of course, but more moves have to be coming for this team. And Ross Atkins is going to speak out here shortly. But I mean, you can't really be upset with the deal. Nick Sandlin, again, he's a free agent after 2027. He's a very good bullpen arm as well. So it's like they shored up multiple parts of their rotation here, and or not rotation, their bullpen in one day, and got a platinum glove level second baseman who could also replace Bichette next season if things don't go that way. So it is I know we use the word shocking sometimes leisurely. This is the most shocking trade I think it's more shocking to me than Dalton Varsho. We even heard links of Dalton Varsho and Jake McCarthy and all those things last offseason. But regarding this, like, I didn't even hear an inkling of Andres Gimenez being A, available, and B, even remotely considered by, the Blue Jays. But if you're in the chat right now, are you happy with the deal? Just type yes or no, because
Yeah.
I love it. I know some people hate it. And yeah,
Well, it remains to be seen how
I
well
guess initial
Andres
reaction,
Gimenez
yeah.
plays. But on the surface, I do like it. And for those of you that are saying that Spencer Horwitz is a better player than Andres Gimenez, who has been selected to an all-star team already, who has put up 7.4 WAR in a season, which is more than Spencer Horwitz would probably put up in 3 seasons. So let's wait and see how this pans out. I think there's a little bit more offense for Andres Gimenez to tap
I
into.
mean,
I
you saw it
don't.
2 years
I,
ago.
no, yeah, this was 2 years ago. This was 2 years ago where he was one of the best players in baseball, and he was the headliner in the return for the Francisco Lindor trade. So this is a good move. This is a move that I like, Nick, and it could either go amazingly or it could just be all right.
We're also seeing reports from Mike Rodriguez saying the Red Sox and Corbin Burnes are in advanced talks, so nearing an agreement. So Red Sox and Burnes, obviously, we'll have to confirm that, but I hope that's not the case. But maybe this was their big swing here. Maybe this is their big swing. They have other things to do as well. I don't know what's going on here. I think the Red Sox probably get Corbin Burnes, but on the surface level, I like the trade a lot. It's a good trade as a table setter. Yeah, and again, we'll have a video on it, but yeah, hit the like button as well. I mean, we're only at 4. Let's get to like 50. But Peter,
And another thing,
yeah,
Nick,
go ahead.
the reason why he was in the market was because the Cleveland Guardians selected a second baseman with their first overall pick last draft. Shout out to Kyle Duffield. It's a solid move. Now go get Burns and let's go.
Do
Well,
it.
we'll wait and see on the Burns front, but Travis Bazana was their first overall pick in the last draft, which is why they ended up putting Andres Gimenez on the block. But I like the move. I like the move. He's a better player than Spencer Horwitz, and you get a reliever
Yeah.
who was in some high leverage situations last year with one of the best bullpen units in baseball.
They traded Spencer Horwitz, so it was a 2-for-1 deal. They gave up Spencer Horwitz. They got I keep forgetting his name. I'm gonna get the full deal.
Nick Sandlin.
Nick
Nick Sandlin.
Nick Sandlin for Nick Sandlin and Andres Gimenez for Spencer Horwitz. I mean, on its own, I don't know how much sense Andres Gimenez makes unless they go out now, and we can discuss this. They got rid of Spencer Horwitz, which means that their DH now is free, or at least more free than it was, which you have to assume now they're going out and going to go for Teoscar Hernandez or Anthony Santander, Peter. You have to assume that one of those guys are going to be a Blue Jay. Now, if they made this deal opening up a spot because they think they have an agreement with one of those two guys, does that make more sense for you? I think it makes a ton more sense for me. If you open up your DH spot, you get a better hitter, and then you replace Spencer Horwitz, obviously in a different position, with a way better fielder. Like, I have to assume a bigger deal is coming here. And I think a huge deal is coming regarding one of their free agents. And I'll give a little tidbit of Nick information a little bit later here, Peter. But again, I think Santander or Teoscar Hernandez is going to be a Blue Jay. Like I'm very confident in that. I think this deal only makes sense if they go out and they sign one of the big hitters. And you've been mentioning it, and we've been talking about it. If you look at the two outfielders available who hit for power, Santander and Teoscar, they both need to really play a lot of DH given their defensive abilities here. So I think it makes a ton of sense if they're trying to open up the DH spot. And maybe they go out and they get Teoscar Hernandez or Santander and Sean Manaea.
Yeah, Sean Manaea is another name as well. And we've been on record saying that I don't think they need an ace. I don't. As great as it would be to get Corbin Burnes, we kept hearing about this $38 million budget that they had to work with. You take into account the $15 million that Andres Gimenez is making. Uh, it's you probably have around $20 million left now to work
Yeah.
with. So with that $20 million, you look at the market value for Anthony Santander, for Teoscar Hernandez. Those two guys are right around that figure that we're talking about. So it does make perfect sense. And as you mentioned, Nick, Andres Gimenez could slot over to shortstop in a pinch. And if you were to ask me today, I think he should be the everyday shortstop of the Toronto Blue Jays right now. And you move Bichette to second base. But I don't know if they'll do that.
Yeah, and of course Spencer Horwitz is gone. There was links to Gleyber Torres. I don't think that's on the table anymore. Clearly they pivoted away from, I mean, maybe they still go for him, but I don't think, I mean, he could play third, I guess. I don't know how they would. They still need a third baseman, which is something, I mean, unless Gimenez is playing third base, which I don't think, I think right now the infield, I don't know, there's a lot. I think this opens up just a lot of interesting possibilities. And again, Ross is going to speak on this tonight, you would assume, but man, oh man, if anything for me, it is the infield version of Dalton Varsho, but with a bit, I mean, yeah, really, but he's already hit his kind of like, he had a season better than Varsho's best season ever, this 7-WAR season. I mean, he had a 7.4 WAR in 2022, he had a 5.3, and he had a 4 WAR last year. So he had an 82 OPS plus last year with a 4 wins above replacement. So, I mean, it adds
Well, it
value.
just shows you how good his base running and defense is.
And that means if he can tap back into some of it, similar to Dalton Varsho, I don't know. However, if they get Corbin Burnes here, I'm over the moon. I think the Red Sox are going to get Corbin Burnes at this point. Yoan Moncada, I wouldn't hate it, honestly. A buy low guy to help, go for it at this point. I don't know. I'm kind of surprised here. This is kind of shocking to me. I think they're ultimately going to make a deal for Teoscar Hernandez or Anthony Santander, though. I do think that's definitely going to happen. And if they do that, Peter, I mean, you really now have a much more formidable team when you look at it. If you're looking at, let's just say Santander for sake of argument, Santander, Varsho once he's healthy, and then Springer, a solid outfield. And then your infield looks so much better now with Gimenez anyway. It's like whether you hate the deal or not, he's just a much better second base option than anybody else they would have had.
I think the reason why people hate the trade is because it's not what the Blue Jays needed.
Which is why we have to judge it based on what moves they make next.
Yes, it's not exactly what the Blue Jays needed, but if we compare player to player, Gimenez is a far superior overall player to Spencer Horwitz. So just on the surface of that, if it was Horwitz
and
or
Will
Gimenez,
Wagner for that matter.
Yes, he's better than anybody that they have as an option at the second base position. There's no doubt about it. And you add on top of that, you get Nick Sandlin, who pitched around 60 innings last year and had a K per 9 over 10. You needed help in the bullpen as well. Now you get a cheap option that you're going to have until 2028. It makes sense to me. And the talks with Bo have kind of stalled. We haven't heard anything on that front. Andres Gimenez is a platinum glove winner, not a gold glove winner, a platinum glove winner. So that means not only was he the best player at his the best defender at his position, he is the best defender in baseball at one point in time. So he's that good. He's that legit. He stole 30 bases last year. I mean, this adds a whole new element to the team, and he's shown the ability to be very effective with his bat. Even in a down season, the year before the one previous to this one, he still had 15 home runs. So 15 home runs, around 70 RBIs, it makes sense to me. And he's a platinum glove level defender. I like the deal. I do.
Yeah, I mean, I like it a lot, and now it's just a matter of waiting until things go up. Yeah, I mean, take Mock Bomb with a grain of salt. He's right sometimes, he's not right other times, though he is saying that the Jays are going to land Corbin Burnes and that they have the biggest offer on the table. I heard that their offer is 6 years, $210 million, Peter.
It's a lot.
So that's what I was.
I don't know if that's enough though.
I don't know. I think it was before Max Fried signed for. And I heard this.
Yeah.
Someone DM'd it to me. I heard this earlier today. So that was before the Max Fried situation. So I assume the price has gone up now, regardless. But I heard 6-210 is their current offer. Now again, take that with a grain of salt. It's not a full on reporter. It's just some grapevine stuff I'm hearing. But I mean, if that is the offer, they might have to go up now. And if the thing is though, if they go out and they get Corbin Burnes now, I like this team a lot more. I like it a lot more. And again, Free. We can also talk about like Max Free got 8 years, 218. So Burnes like 8 years, 260 or something like crazy. I mean, he's gonna get more, but his salary is gonna be 23.5 million in 2 years, and that is the thing. The Mets definitely aren't landing Burnes. They're actually reported out on Corbin Burnes.
Let me just take a look at Andres Gimenez spot rack here, just to confirm what the deal, what his contract actually looks like. So it's a 7-year, $106 million deal. His 2025 base salary is going to be 10.5 million,
which is a good deal, especially at this point.
Which is okay for next year. Then it goes up to 15, 23, 23, 23. And then there's a club option in 2030 for $23 million. But he's only 26 years old.
Yeah, I mean, you're getting a guy in his prime. Like, I mean, in theory, he had a 7.4. He hasn't had a season below a 4 WAR in his like career, obviously, besides his first couple seasons when he barely played. So it's like, if they go out and they are able to, the other alternative they had right now was Will Wagner. Like you added wins, no matter which way you slice it, you added wins to the team. So you can't really, and you need to do that, and you can't really complain about it at this point. This is better to me than a Gleyber Torres signing, than a Yoan Moncada signing, than whoever else they were able to get in free agency. So now they have to pivot though and move and actually get someone else.
Yeah,
they need power now. They need. I mean, Horns didn't have power anyway, so they need to make up and have. I
think he has a little bit. I think he has some sneaky power.
I mean, I know, but I'm
a
saying,
little bit more than we were giving him credit for. But yeah, I get what you mean.
Like,
I get what you mean.
At the end of the day, they upgraded their team. Their team is better. Their team is a lot better. You got a better bullpen piece, and you have a better second baseman. So and we knew, and if they are standing true to the fact that their budget is however many million, like they needed to make a trade of some sort. I would much rather this. And this might be a hot take, but I just don't think it is. I'd much rather this than a Nolan Arenado trade for me at this point. I mean, you have him for years. And here's the thing with a player like this. The worst case scenario, if he continues, he had his worst season of his career last year and the worst season you could have really asked for. He still put up a 4 WAR. So if you bounce on any bit of bounce back here and you rely on it, you're getting a 5 to 6 WAR player easily. And then if he happens to have a good year next year or a good year the year after, he's under control for 100 million. So it's like, I don't know. To me, it's a win-win-win, even if it is the worst possible outcome. Like the worst possible outcome here is you have one of the best defenders in baseball. And as long as you pair him alongside power hitters, I think you're perfectly fine.
Well, let's take a look at his 2022 season, okay? Which he was 23 years old in. It's not like this guy is 35 years old now and he's over the hill and you're betting on a bounce back. He's in his prime of his career. And in 2022, 837 OPS, okay? 837 OPS, 141 OPS plus, which is 41% better than league average, and that is the year where he won the Platinum Glove. He finished 6th in MVP voting. Okay? He's not too far removed from that kind of season, and he's not washed up. Okay, so he had a bad year with the bat, but if he is a league average hitter, he's a star.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
5.3 WAR is a star. So he was below league average in 2023, slightly below, and he was a star caliber player. So take that as you will.
I'm all over it. I'm all over this.
He's a much better player than Spencer Horwitz.
I mean, yeah,
much better player.
He also, I'm like, I thought when people, and I've been talking, like, I thought people were gonna eat this trade up. I was expecting, when I first heard this trade drop, I was expecting a different player than Spencer Horwitz. Now, Spencer Horwitz is very good. I think there is some recency bias to some fans here because of how good he had. A very bit of a cold end of the season, but I don't know. I like the deal a lot. You have a guy under control, and it's not like it's a boom or bust player here. Like, it is literally the opposite of a boom or bust player because his defense is so good that it doesn't, like, if he ends up, it's kind of like Varsho to a degree. If you end up having a bad season, and if he sticks at, let's say, 650 OPS for the rest of his Jays career on this contract, yeah, it's probably not a great contract. He's still putting up 4 wins above replacement a season. And especially at a time where the infield defense of the Jays is very suspect, having somebody who can shore that up and slide into shortstop if Bichette leaves next season. Yeah. Like, there's a world this guy is if he finds his prime, he's 25 years old. You can have a consistent 7-WAR player. Like, the ceiling here, we already saw it, is a consistent one of the best players, one of the best infielders in baseball. That's the ceiling.
He is a lefty. He is a lefty as well.
And you got him for Spencer Horwitz, who at his ceiling could be a very solid first baseman, but is very limited by his defense. So it's like, I don't know how people hate this.
And this, to me, as well, shows that Vladdy is now moving off of first base. Because we saw Vladdy DH a little bit towards the end of the season. We saw him play some third base. Now there is no confusion. You have an everyday guy at second base. You have an everyday guy at first base. The only position where you don't have an everyday guy is third base right now. And left field. Left field as well.
Also
which I'm sure they're working on. So we were very critical of Ross Atkins and Mark Shapiro for doing nothing. But they made 2 big moves today. They brought back Jimmy Garcia at a reasonable contract, in my opinion, and they brought in Nick Sandlin, who is the reliever that they got in this trade, who had a 3.5 ERA last year, had a K per 9 over 10, 60 innings pitched. This guy was a workhorse in one of the best bullpens in baseball.
Also, sorry to interrupt you. Hit the like button. Try to get to 50 likes. We're at 30, and there's 470 people in here. So I think we can get to 50 likes. And Peter, I just also want to say, I agree. Like, they have to make a bigger move. They need to make another move regarding shoring up the power side of things. But Peter, can we just take a step back for a second? And if you would have told me last offseason that Horwitz was labeled as a 4A guy for many, many years. He's not a young player. He's in his mid-20s, and he came up.
He's older than him.
That's my point. So he came up, and it's not like you're giving up a young prospect. Last offseason, we made videos on the fact that they should trade Spencer Horwitz, and we were happy with getting a bullpen piece back, just a bullpen piece back for Spencer Horwitz because he didn't have any room on this team. You play him, the Jays end up tanking. You play him for a whole year, 3/4 of a year. He rises his value up, starts to cool down towards the end of the year, and you flip him for a 25-year-old under control who had a 7.4 WAR season. Like, I don't understand how in any world, but even if Spencer Horwitz goes out, he hits 330. Let's say he hits 330. He has a 870 OPS, right? And he has a great year. He's still only putting up 4 WAR because his defense is that limited. So it's
if he hits 330, I'll be pretty pissed. But
I agree. But you had to sell high, buy low.
I think that's who he is.
Yeah.
I think what we saw last year, an OPS nearing 750, maybe even 800, that is the best that you're going to see out of Spencer Horwitz. I think that's and last year for Andres Gimenez, Nick, was his absolute lowest point that he could be at. His absolute lowest.
Buy low, sell high. They're selling high on Horwitz.
Exactly. You're selling high on a guy who has limited potential.
Hold on.
Limited
I gotta get
potential.
someone out of the chat.
You're selling high on a guy that has limited potential,
Yep.
and you're getting a guy who finished sixth in MVP voting.
Yeah, I love it. Oh, I did not mean to remove you, Tipsy. That was the wrong person. Did not mean to remove you.
Tipsy Bacon.
Sorry,
What's that
Tipsy.
all?
I like Spencer, but this is a win. Tipsy, I read out your message. We had someone coming here spamming. Did they just go up Horwitz? Just Horwitz. So it's a 2-for-1 deal. Horwitz and a bullpen piece for sure, but for sure other. No, I think this is the deal, right? This is the finalized deal.
This is the deal.
So it's just Horwitz.
Horwitz for Sandlin and Andres Gimenez.
Now, if you just look at it, even just from like a WAR perspective, you're getting 4 WAR, technically 3.9 because I think Nick Sandin had a Sandlin had a negative 1 WAR, but either way, a 4 WAR for Spencer Horwitz had a 1.2 WAR last season, a 1.2 WAR. Now he's better than that. He had a 790 OPS. It's all relative, but
it's not the end all be all.
It's not at all.
WAR is not the end all be all, but Andres Gimenez stole 30 bags last year, 30 bags the year before. This is a player that the Blue Jays do not have on their team.
Yeah, I've never been all in here. I have never been more in on a trade, I don't think. Which is why I'm surprised. And I think a lot of people on Twitter who are upset about the trade are starting to come down on it now and kind of start to realize, like, I don't know. Like, I just can't really think of a world where this trade, like with the Dalton Varsho world, like trade, there was a world where it ends horribly because of Varsho's ceiling. Horwitz does not have that ceiling. He just doesn't have a ceiling like that at all, which nothing against Horwitz. I was never a huge Horwitz guy anyway. You can go back in the videos and I haven't really never, like, he's limited with his defense, but I don't know. And something else to keep in mind, and maybe this is just thinking of it too far in advance here. They are, every single pitcher would love to play with Andres Gimenez behind you for what it's worth. A platinum glove pitcher. So that's going to help Berríos. It's going to help, obviously, Kevin Gausman, who's a ground ball pitcher. And Peter, guess who else is a ground ball pitcher? Corbin Burnes.
Corbin Burnes. But he does pick up a fair share of strikeouts.
He does. But, I mean, if they go out and get Corbin Burnes, it's possible. I'm also hearing a few different things. For one, the Max Fried contract from the Yankees, full no trade clause, all the way through with no deferred money. So that contract is crazy. I think that's going to age a little bit rough, but I think ultimately it's still a fine deal. And Andrew Friedman, the Dodgers GM, just spoke out on Teoscar and basically said, like, we want him, but basically, like, he's going to do what's best for his family. I don't know if it's going to happen. And I'm hearing that they're going all in on, I think the quote is really, really all in on Teoscar Hernandez right now.
Nick, there's an update here on the trade.
Okay.
So the Blue Jays gave up Nick Mitchell as well, who is a minor league outfielder, 21 years old, drafted in the 4th round in last year's draft.
Okay, he had a good season too. So he had a 816 OPS in single A. So they did give up somebody else. So they gave up a prospect. Interesting. I don't think that really matters. But
not too much power to speak of, but yeah.
Oh, okay. So Ross Atkins spoke out on. Okay, hold on. Rock Atkins spoke out on Andres Gimenez, which we're going to cover in the video, but he basically says everything about him was attractive, his bat speed, all that stuff. Ben Nicholson Smith just tweeted, some people at winter meetings wonder if there might be a third team involved to acquire Spencer Horwitz. One source wondered about the Pirates.
Interesting.
One source wondered. Okay. It's interesting. Yeah, so Ross Atkins is speaking out now, which is crazy. We're also 3 likes away from 50. Yeah, Jacob, it happens, you know, when you're that excited.
It's a good trade, man. I like it.
I love it.
I like it.
Yeah. So Peter, I'm telling you, I'm manifesting Teoscar Hernandez into the Jays. Andrew Freeman just said he was hopeful to re-sign Teoscar, but added at the same time, he decides to sign somewhere else. You have no other choice to wish him well. I don't think they're going to get him back. That's not a comment they say if they're confident in him. Was hopeful, by the way. Was hopeful is the quote. Not is hopeful. Was hopeful. And I'm hearing some things about Teoscar, so we'll see if those things come to fruition. I'm hearing they're going all in. I sound like a reporter. I'm hearing. It's a horrible trade. I disagree, but it's fair enough.
Huh.
I don't know. I think a bigger move is coming here. Like, I think we got to keep our eyes on the.
Yeah, I don't really think Horwitz fits with Cleveland.
Unless they
to
get
be
rid of Josh
honest.
Naylor. Unless they're trading Josh
Yeah,
Naylor.
well, they have Josh Naylor and Kyle Manzardo, who is one of their top prospects, who's also first baseman slash outfielder, lefty bat. So
We have this
I don't know.
conveniently up here. So now as you look at it, you have Vlad, and now your second base, instead of Will Wagner and Leo Gimenez, has turned into Andres Gimenez. And now your bullpen, which was Swanson, Green, and Rodriguez, that's the Ariel, is now going to be Jimmy Garcia, Nick Sandlin, and the rest of the guys. Like, I don't know, it's just a lot better. Just a better team.
I think it is.
It's just a way better
I think
team.
it is a better team. And you add, let's say, Sean Manaea and
Teoscar Hernandez or Anthony Santander.
let's say Anthony Santander for the sake of argument. Okay. Uh, so you slot and you added two relievers today as well. So you have Nick Sandlin and Jimmy Garcia added into the fold. That's a much better bullpen than it was just 12 hours ago, Nick.
I mean, the
Much,
team, if you
much
go by
better.
WAR, and I know WAR is an NLBL, but you think about how many wins they have to add to make the playoffs. In today, they probably added, if you take the median, like at least 6-ish. And that's banking on a horrible season from Gimenez again. If Gimenez puts up another, 4.5, you get maybe 0.91 from Jimmy Garcia, and then Sandlin maybe 0.5. That's 6 wins right there. Plus Bichette, now you're at 10 more wins. Now this is the optimistic side of things. Nick, are you saying that the Jays are all in on Teoscar? That is what I'm hearing, yes, but take it with a grain of salt.
I think Gimenez is going to have a very good year.
Yeah, the deal is done. BK Brandon, the guy who broke the George Springer trade, of course, says this deal makes me very confident there will be 2 power bat additions and more trades. Lots of infield depth to deal from. And again, Teoscar is the name to keep an eye out. Just keep an eye out on that. Or Santander. I think, Peter, I think they've switched.
I would prefer Teoscar.
I think they've switched their mindset a little bit away from Santander and more focused on Teoscar Hernandez now. That's my inkling here. That's my inkling. But they're both all in on it. And I think it's kind of lining up with what the Dodgers guy just said. I mean, more moves are coming. Something huge is happening.
Interesting, man. Interesting.
I mean, they have to make another. Shout out to the 600 of you in here, or almost 600. But they have to make another move. There's just no way they don't. It's just a matter of what it is. I'm telling you, I think this is about as good of a start as you could have asked for, aside from Juan Soto right now.
I wouldn't go that far. But I love this move, Nick. I really love this move. And with the right additions,
that's what I'm saying. It is
this is the perfect move.
Yes. If they go out and they get a power hitter, whether it's Teoscar or Santander, and then one other guy, like we weren't even thinking about Andres Gimenez. This guy has a ceiling. It makes a lot of sense because I don't think, and Peter, we've been talking about it. Gaming, I disagree. Maybe I don't know if we're just on.
I disagree.
I don't know if we're on the other side of it here, which is fine if we are. If you look about how Ross Atkins could make this team better, like for this season, this is a great way to do it because no one else is like Arenado. This is just a better version of not a better version of Arenado. Very different. I do think he's going to have a better season, but I don't know.
I think this is the right move
if they get power hitters, because then you have your power hitters. Because the alternative was there's no one else in really the market. Alex Bregman, would you rather have him or would you rather have Gimenez? And maybe a lot of you guys would say Alex Bregman, which is fair. You just traded the only positive from 2024. I mean, but it's not like you gave him up for one bullpen.
But he declined. He declined heavily towards the end of the season. Look, Horwitz is what he is. Okay, he's older than Andres Gimenez. He had to wait a long time to get to the big leagues. You managed to get a guy that finished 6th in MVP voting for a guy who couldn't crack your big league roster until he was 26.
Like, I don't.
That is, to me, that's a good deal. He's a better player when you're just comparing Horwitz and Andres Gimenez. That's the way I see it. And Gimenez, if he is a league average hitter, this is a steal of a trade.
I agree. Now, also, like, we can take a minute. They have no room for Spencer Horwitz on this team if they go out and they get either of Santander or Teoscar Hernandez. Because you need to give those guys DH at-bats for them to be as effective as they can be. And not only that, I think DH at bats for George Springer is helpful at this point of his career. DH at bats for Vladdy is helpful at this point of his career. And they're not playing Spencer Horwitz at second base. They stopped doing that for the last 30 games of the season. So there was no room for him on the team unless they weren't going to get one of these big guys. And it's something we didn't really discuss that much because, again, we were talking about Horwitz at second base with Peter. I don't think they were going to do that. And clearly they weren't. And, I mean, I don't know.
I thought Horwitz did okay at second base.
They didn't like it internally because they stopped playing him for the last 30 games.
Yeah, but this, I mean, this is the best defender in baseball at that position.
And you're also getting a bullpen arm that is better than any of the other bullpen arms they had from like the minor leagues and things like that. I don't know.
Yes. Yeah.
We'll have to maybe my mind will change after a little bit.
I think the deal is the deal breaker for some people is the contract. But he's making $10 million next year.
That's the upside though too. Like if he was just under contract for 1 or 2 more years, what if he starts playing really well? And then you have him for a steal. And if he starts playing really bad, then it's a okay contract because of inflation. So it's like, I don't know.
It is a pretty big contract. Let's not kid ourselves here, but it's $10 million next year, which doesn't really cut into their budget as much. They still have over $20 million to spend now. Because if you do $7.5 million plus the $10 million that you're giving to Andres Gimenez, that's $17.5 million. And you still have, in theory, probably $22 to $25 million to spend going into next year, which in my calculation, I'm not a math guy, but I'm going to try my best here. That is amply enough to get either one of Teoscar Hernandez or Anthony Santander, which makes this deal make way more sense after you get one of those guys.
And I'm confident they will. And ultimately, before we wrap up here, because we'll have a video coming on it later, but Peter, I do want to quickly, just for people who are unaware here, Nick Sandlin is not just a reliever. Like, it's not just a random guy. I'm going to get up his stats for you. In case you guys are unfamiliar with the other reliever they got. 2022, 46 games, 2.25 ERA. 2023, 61 games, 3.75 ERA. Last season, now, he had a -1 WAR. It was a bit of a weird year. He was 8-0 with a 3.75 ERA. Like, he would be one of the better Jays bullpen pieces for the past 3 seasons. And that was the throw-in.
More strikeouts than innings pitched, by the way,
which is
in all of his seasons.
So it's like,
yeah,
I don't know. We'll take some time. We'll regroup about it. But ultimately, Peter, I don't know. I'm all in on it. Like, I don't see a world where this is a bad deal. I just don't see that happening. And in a world where Max Fried is getting 7 years, over $200 million. If Gimenez ends, he's on a $100 million contract. I mean, Matt Chapman got $160 million, albeit he has more power. He had a great season, but like, contracts are only getting more expensive, and you locked someone up. And I'm sure if you're a Guardians fan, you could be saying, "Hey, we got out of the contract and got a guy that can hit." But it's like, I don't know. It fits the Jays perfectly to me. I mean, it doesn't really. Actually, it fits really bad unless they get a power hitter, which I think they get Teoscar Hernandez or Anthony Santander. Let's Get Gaming. Thank you so much for the $20. If is the key word, gents. It's now a must that we get Santander and Bregman. Makes it so much harder. Also, the reliever gave up 10 home runs in under 60 innings for 2 years in a row. Yeah, he has had some struggles with the home run ball. But Gaming, let's not forget, the Jays bullpen is horrible. So it's like,
and I like his delivery as well. It's a very weird sidearm sort of delivery that kind of messes up hitters. So yeah, it's a strike. He's a strikeout guy, but he's prone to the home run ball. I think we're pretty used to guys that are giving up home runs out of the bullpen. We had Trevor Richards on this damn team for so many years. So
that's fine. You can have guys who give up the home run ball as long as you have it, the rest of the bullpen. I don't know. Yeah. That's like an extra piece thrown in. And a year ago, this time last year, you could literally make the argument this time last year that that Jays fans would be fine with Horwitz for Nick Sandlin straight up, coming off of a 3.75 ERA. Like, we were having that conversation because of he played what? I think in the year before last, Horwitz played not many games, 30 games maybe or something like that, maybe a little bit more in his first season, and it makes all the sense in the world to me. And I also think a big deal is coming by the end of this week, and I think it's going to come in the form of, I don't know if it's Corbin Burnes, but I think it's Teoscar Hernandez or Anthony Santander. And again, I'm hearing that they're all in on those guys. So, any final thoughts?
Is it possible that we see a Bichette trade?
And that's another thing. And that's another video we can have, and like a discussion we can have as well. if they decide to move off of Bo at the trade deadline, whether they're competing or not, because they know he's not going to be a J, you have a guy who can slot into shortstop, one of the best defensive ones in the game until 2030.
I think it's possible.
Like it gives them
possible.
I think for Ross Atkins, there's literally probably 5 reasons that they did the deal. You know, defense, insurance at shortstop, being the great second baseman, buying low on him, and selling high on Spencer Horwitz. It makes all the sense in the world to me. Any final thoughts, Peter? We can wrap up, and we'll have a video coming out for you guys later. Mr. Julius with the 5.
I'm excited to see what he can do, man. We can't judge the trade yet, but on the surface, I like it.
Trade Horwitz as Wagner's the exact same hitter. A little bit different, but like you have young guys that can replace. Finding what Horwitz does is not that difficult. With all due respect to Spencer Horwitz, of course.
I think he's a good player. But now the Blue Jays have some clarity on what their lineup is going to look like, and I'm interested to see whether or not Andres Gimenez is their leadoff hitter going into next season, or if they give him an elevated role to maybe regain some of his magic that he had in a couple years past.
Legend, if more moves come, we'll get back on the live here. We'll get back on live. I don't think they're going to come in the immediate future. I don't think they're going to come like tonight. But again, if more moves come, we will definitely be back on the live. I think I was already live. Yeah, I was already live today too. So we'll keep you up to date with all the latest content. Peter, any final thoughts on this? I think it's going to be a wild 48 hours.
No, nothing. Just thank you to Legend and to Mr. Julius as well, or to Let's Get Gaming, sorry, and to Julius as well for the donations, and appreciate all of your support. We're trying our best here, guys, to keep you up to date on everything that you need to know, and you guys seem to be reciprocating all of that. So shout out to you guys. And let's see how this trade plays out. Maybe Andres Gimenez finishes 6th in MVP voting again, and this is all a moot point. Then we're all not worried about what Spencer Horwitz is going to turn into with the Cleveland Guardians when he gets 200 at bats, because they have 3 Spencer Horwitzes on their roster already.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
If the move drops, we'll be here for it. And I mean, ultimately, I rushed home from sushi to get here, so it's
dedication.
Yeah. Keep it up. All right, take it easy, everybody. We will see you all. I mean, I don't even want to say a date because it'll be soon. Probably whether it's later tonight, we'll have a video later tonight or tomorrow or something like that. Thank you guys.